It was a pretty exciting week around the Ontario Hockey League as this 2024-25 season got underway, and there were some interesting moments and some surprises. And we'll get to all that here in the Power Rankings because this is a way of taking a snapshot of where the teams stand on any given week. And there's been quite a bit of movement. You see that at the start of the regular season quite often, where teams are kind of bouncing around because coming out of the preseason, rosters are still being put together. Players are coming back from NHL camps. So we'll be seeing some movement for the first few weeks before we start to see some steady teams near the top. And we'll get to that here in just a moment. But first, I want to say thanks to all those who have hit subscribe so far. We're approaching 500 subscribers, which is unreal. Just want to say thank you very much to those who have hit subscribe so far. And if you haven't hit subscribe, that's okay as well. This is just meant to be a channel where we talk about junior hockey on almost a daily basis, especially during the regular season. So thank you very much for joining and clicking on this video to talk about the power rankings in the Ontario Hockey League. So starting things off at number 20, we have the Peterborough Petes. They are down 2 spots this week. It was a rough start to the regular season for Peterborough. They went 0-2 and were shut out 4-0 by the North Bay Battalion. This is expected to be another season of growing pains in Peterborough, but it was good to see Chase Lefebvre continue where he left off in the preseason. He led the team in scoring in the preseason and then got a goal and an assist in their 7-2 loss to the Kingston Frontenac. So good to see Lefebvre continue to contribute offensively. And now for Peterborough going forward, they play Thursday night at home against the North Bay Battalion and Friday make their trip to Sudbury. At number 19, the Sarnia Sting, another team that's fallen 2 places in the power rankings. The Sting, they only fall 2 spots after going 1-1, and they fell because a couple of teams passed them. Caden Johnston, though, it was great to see him fitting in well with the Sarnia Sting after he was acquired from London before the start of the regular season. Johnston, he was leading the London Knights in scoring in the preseason, and in just 2 games so far with Sarnia, 3 goals and 1 assist, so he's doing quite well with the Sting. Coming up for Sarnia, Friday night, they're at home against the Saginaw Spirit. Saturday, they travel to Flint. And then Sunday, they host the Sioux Greyhounds. So their first 3-3 of the regular season. So a big test coming up for them. At number 18, the Guelph Storm. They are up 2 spots this week. What a great start for the Guelph Storm. They won both of their games against the Owen Sound Attack in their home-and-home series and find themselves right now first in the Midwest Division, the only team to go 2-0 in the division. I know it's really early in the regular season, but still, it's some good news for the Storm as they're taking steps. They're getting there. Obviously, the Owen Sound Attack, a team that's going into a rebuild, so I'm sure for some fans, kind of thinking that maybe those 2 wins were a given, but still, you play the games on the ice, and they got the points. And Braden Gillespie looked good in net for the Guelph Storm. In his 2 starts, a .914 save percentage, and he'll be key this season if the Guelph Storm are going to challenge in the Western Conference this year. So coming up this weekend, they are home to the Sioux Greyhounds Friday night, and then they travel to Kitchener on Sunday, that classic Highway 7 rivalry between the Rangers and the Storm. At number 17, the Kingston Frontenacs, they're down 3 spots this week. It was a promising start for Kingston. They won 7-2 on the road against the Peterborough Petes, and then suffered back-to-back losses on home ice to Oshawa and Niagara. So Jacob Battaglia, though, off to a hot start. 3 goals, 4 assists. He will be a key factor for the Frontenacs if they're going to push for top spot in the East Division. For this team, chemistry is still a thing. Expect Kingston to maybe add a piece or 2 in the coming weeks as they try to add to their lineup. But I do think Kingston has the potential to be a bit of a dark horse in the Eastern Conference this year. Coming up for them this weekend, they're at home to the North Bay Battalion on Friday, and then Sunday, they host the Ottawa 67s. Number 16, the Niagara Ice Dogs. They're up 3 positions this week, and it's a pleasant surprise seeing Niagara go 2-0 to start the season. They had 2 wins on the road against Ottawa and Kingston, and I was looking at their history. This is the first time in 3 years that Niagara has started the season 2-0. Kevin He looked solid in his comeback from the Winnipeg Jets camp, posting 3 goals in those 2 games. So Niagara, we'll see if they can continue this momentum. They're on the road again Friday night in Oshawa, and then their home opener will be on Sunday against the Brampton Steelheads, which will be a big test for this team going forward. At 15th, the Owen Sound Attack. They're down 2 spots this week. For Owen Sound, they opened with a home and home series against the Guelph Storm and dropped both of those games against their division rivals. It was great to see, though, that rookie forward Pierce Maboy, he scored in his first game, so one OHL goal in his first game, which is exciting to see. And it's just going to be fun to see him develop this season. I think for the Owen Sound Attack, it's a rebuild season. So you want to see the young pieces getting their opportunities, and that's just what we saw to start the regular season. Now, coming up for Owen Sound, they're on the road Friday night. They're going to travel to Brantford to face the Bulldogs before hosting the Kitchener Rangers on Sunday. At number 14, the Barrie Colts, they are up 1 position this week. Barrie opened their 30th anniversary season by going 1-1. Both those games, penalties were a bit of an issue for the Barrie Colts. The penalty kill has looked all right so far, but if they're going to want to cut down on those penalties and giving other teams opportunities. They did that against Sudbury and against North Bay. So I'm sure for Marty Williamson, the coaching staff, something that they're going to look to talk about as they prepare for the upcoming week. And for the Barrie Colts, they did run into a hot goaltender too on Saturday as Charlie LaRocque in his OHL debut really shut the door and quite the bright spot for North Bay. But as for this Barrie Colts team, you got Cole Baudouin coming back from the Utah Hockey Club. He should be in the lineup this upcoming weekend. And it sounds like Bo Akey could also be back in the Barrie Colts lineup as early as this weekend. So reinforcements are on the way for the Barrie Colts, but right now 14th in the power rankings. Coming up on Thursday, they host the Brampton Steelheads, so a big Central Division rivalry night. Saturday, they host the Sudbury Wolves. And then on Sunday, they travel to Oshawa to face the Generals. At 13, the Flint Firebirds. They are up 3 positions this week. Flint opened the regular season with a statement win on the road against the London Knights, winning 7-4, and they outshot London 41-23. It was quite the show. Obviously, the Knights, they don't have a full lineup, but playing, the Knights strong in their opening night in their first 2 games, actually, kind of gives this team a bit of a confidence boost going forward. So we'll see how Flint can develop after this weekend where they went 1-1. They do have a game Friday night in Kitchener against the Rangers before returning home on Saturday to take on the Sarnia Sting. At number 12, the Erie Otters, they dropped 2 positions this week. For Erie, they opened the season with a 5-2 win in Kitchener and then lost 5-2 on home ice against the Brampton Steelheads. So those 2 games kind of even things out for the Erie Otters going 1-1. Although Sam Alfano, he had a solid week, putting up 3 goals, while Payno Femus posted 4 assists. So offensively, this team's showing a lot of potential. And I think the Otters should challenge for home ice in the Western Conference come playoff time. I know that's such a long ways away, but I think it'll just take them time to get healthy since Matthew Schaefer out due to mono. This team's going to develop that chemistry. Stan Butler, a very experienced head coach behind the bench. I do believe that Erie Otters should be a team to watch for in the West as the season goes on. And for this weekend, 2 games on the road. They're in London on Friday night before traveling to Saginaw on Saturday. At number 11, the Brampton Steelheads, up 1 position. I wanted to put the Steelheads higher in the power ranking, but there was another team ahead of them, which kind of prevented them from making that bigger jump. I like that, this team, I like when the power rankings, the teams climb steadily, not like a sharp jump, like 6 spots or 8 spots. I think that over the season, we should be seeing their progress, maybe going a couple spots, maybe 3 spots at a time. And I don't think for Brampton, it's going to take them long to actually make it as one of the top 5 teams in the power rankings with the way they played. They were outstanding, going 2-0. At home, they defeated Brantford 7-0 and then won 5-2 on the road in Erie. So this is a very good Steelheads team. They will be moving up the power rankings. But leading the way in points last week for Brampton, Porter Martone, a goal and 5 assists. And he's already creating some great chemistry with Carson Rakoff. So things looking very bright for this Brampton Steelheads team. Coming up this week, Thursday night, they're in Barrie. Saturday, they host the London Knights. And then on Sunday, they make the trip to St. Catharines to face the Niagara Ice Dogs. At number 10, it's the Sioux Greyhounds, who are down 2 positions. Kind of similar to what I said about a team gradually climbing the power rankings. I also like to see teams gradually fall down the power rankings because I don't want to have like a knee-jerk reaction, be like, oh, this team is 0-2. They need to be at the bottom of the power rankings. No, because they did okay during the preseason. So I don't want to like have a drastic response to a team when they're having a slow start. For Sault Ste. Marie, though, it is a little concerning, those two losses, as Saginaw seemed to control the flow of the game in the first game, and then the Sudbury Wolves coming back and winning 6-3. So they gave up 12 goals in 2 games, the Sioux Greyhounds. So they're going to need to find a way to stop the bleeding, and we'll see if they continue to tumble down the power rankings over the next couple of weeks. But they're going on the road this weekend, so maybe it's this is something that could help them bond and maybe figure things out as a team. Because on Thursday night they're in Windsor, Friday they're in Guelph, and then on Sunday they are in Sarnia. At number 9, we have the Windsor Spitfires, who are up 2 positions. What an opening weekend for Windsor. A much better start than what we saw a year ago. Windsor, they spoiled Saginaw's Memorial Cup banner-raising night with a 5-4 win in overtime. Jack Nesbitt, of course, scoring the overtime winner in that hockey game. And then first overall pick, Ethan Belchetz, puts up 4 goals and 2 assists in a 12-2 win over the Kitchener Rangers. For Belchetz, he's the first 16-year-old rookie since Matt Pumple of the Peterborough Petes did it in March 2010. So what a statement weekend from the Windsor Spitfires. Actually, on the broadcast on Saturday, Gene Pereira, my color commentator, he mentioned that he wouldn't be surprised the Windsor Spitfires are the team that win the West Division this season, just because of the firepower that's been developing with this team, and just the confidence too that you've got, management committed to this core group, and Windsor, a very proud organization as well. So there's a lot of excitement around Windsor, and I think this opening weekend with what they saw on the score sheet is kind of adding to that excitement. Coming up for Windsor, they host the Sioux Greyhounds Thursday night, and then Saturday they go to Brantford to face the Bulldogs. At number 8, it's the Brantford Bulldogs. They're up 1 position. It was a bit of a rough start. They lost 7-0 to the Brampton Steelheads to open the season, but then responded with a 6-2 win over Oshawa. So 1-1 against 2 of the projected top contenders in the Eastern Conference. So not too bad there for the Brantford Bulldogs. And Patrick Thomas, he was key in the win versus the Generals, posting 4 assists. So I do like the look of this Brantford team. Just a tough situation there opening the season in Brampton. Coming up, they're home Friday night to the Owen Sound Attack, and then they host the Windsor Spitfires on Saturday. At number 7, the Sudbury Wolves. No change from last week. They are holding strong onto the number 7 spot. The Sudbury Wolves, 1-1 to start the season. They lost at home to the Barrie Colts and then earned the victory on the road against the Sioux Greyhounds. So they have a new coach with Scott Barney behind the bench, but the undisciplined play kind of lingering with the Sudbury Wolves. In the opening game against the Barrie Colts, 2 slew footing majors were handed out. Dax Klinkhammer and Blake Clayton, the 2 players sent off for the slew foot. For Sudbury, if they can stay out of the penalty box, I feel like I said this quite often last year as well, I think this team could challenge and make some noise. They've got the pieces. I think Nate Krawchuk is one of the more underrated goaltenders in the Ontario Hockey League. So I'm not saying Sudbury is expected to win the division and win the conference, but what I'm saying is Sudbury could be a team that could ruffle some feathers, I think, in the Eastern Conference and maybe challenge for home ice, depending on what they do with the future. Obviously, there might be some moves that come about depending on how they look to their future. But with this current group, and then with Quentin Mesty when he returns, I think Sudbury could make things very interesting in the Eastern Conference. Coming up this week, they're home to the Peterborough Petes on Friday night before traveling to Barrie on Saturday. At number 6, the North Bay Battalion, they're down 1 position. Now, the Battalion falling 1 spot is nothing against this team. They were just passed by another team that ended the week with an impressive win. The North Bay Battalion, 2-0, and they've only given up 1 goal in those 2 games. Mike McIver and Charlie Larocque, they look like they could be a pretty solid goaltending tandem based on early results. Like I said, it's early in the season, so we'll see how it goes as the season progresses. But Larocque, seeing him in person there on Saturday night, he was solid, making some great saves. The Colts trying to do the cross-ice pass, but Larocque able to make the huge stop. So the big question right now facing this North Bay team, Dalen Wakely. He was sent back from the Edmonton Oilers camp, but he is yet to dress for the North Bay Battalion. So we'll wait and see. There is some rumors going around that a trade may be on the horizon involving Wakely. He's a player that a lot of teams would like to add, but right now he is a member of the North Bay Battalion, and we'll see if he joins the team this weekend because they're continuing their 6-game road trip. They're playing 3-3 this weekend. It starts Thursday night against the Peterborough Petes. Friday, they're in Kingston, and then on Sunday, they take on the Ottawa 67s. At number 5, it's the Ottawa 67s, who are up one position, and it was really close for the Ottawa 67s in both of their games. They lost 3-2 to Niagara and then came back to win in overtime against the Oshawa Generals. Cooper Foster scoring the game winner on the road. So Ottawa and North Bay, two teams that are in very similar situations to start the season. And it kind of looks like a season where they could sell to recoup picks and younger talent. But we'll have to wait and see where they go from here because after a decent start, maybe they'll hold on to guys a little bit longer. And if the division is not a runaway with someone, then maybe they look to add some depth. Maybe no big moves, but we'll have to wait and see. But Ottawa looking not too bad over the weekend. And coming up this week, on Saturday, they're home to the North Bay Battalion. And then on Sunday, they're on the road to face the Kingston Frontenacs. At number 4, it's the Kitchener Rangers, who are down 3 positions. They were the number 1 team on the power ranking last week. And that was because they had a pretty good preseason, 5-0-1. The Rangers then go and open the regular season 0-2 and outscored 17-4. So it just goes to show what happens in the preseason doesn't necessarily translate to what you can expect into the regular season. Although I kind of wondered if Kitchener would have some momentum to start the year, not have this drop off right away. But like I said, it tends to happen quite often where some teams that have really strong preseasons, it doesn't usually carry over too well into the regular season. Last year it was the Sarnia Sting, who were the top team in the preseason, and then as the season went on, ended up falling out of the playoff picture. So Kitchener, a team that's looking to the future. They may trade off some assets between now and the trade deadline. We'll have to wait and see, but still, there is time for this team to maybe turn it around. Who knows? But this weekend, they're home to the Flint Firebirds on Friday. Saturday, they travel to Owen Sound, and then Sunday, they take on the Guelph Storm. At number 3, the London Knights. They are down 1 position this week. Seeing the Knights lose 7-4 on home ice to the Flint Firebirds raised a few eyebrows around the league, considering they were outshot 41-23. Obviously, London is still missing key players at NHL training camps. That includes the likes of Easton Cowan, Sam Dickinson, Oliver Bonk, Denver Barkey, just to name a few. So you get a couple of those players back, this team looks a lot different on their roster. So the Knights, they're going to challenge for top spot in the Western Conference, I do believe. So expect them to turn things around. But right now, just making good with what they have. They're younger depth players, getting some experience. And this weekend, they're home to the Erie Otters on Friday before traveling to Brampton to face the Steelheads on Saturday. Second in the power rankings, up 1 spot, is the Oshawa Generals. Oshawa, the only team to play a 3-3 to start the regular season, and they ended up going 1-1-1. The Generals are in a similar position as London because they're missing some key players to their roster due to NHL camps and injury. Callum Ritchie, Beckett Seneca, Ben Danford, just to name a few, they're still out of the lineup. When they come back and healthy, this team will start to pick it up, kind of like what we saw last season for the Oshawa Generals. And for this week, they do play 2 games. They're home Friday night to Niagara Ice Dogs and then home to the Barrie Colts on Sunday. So, number 1, we have a new team at the top of the power rankings, and it's the Saginaw Spirit, who are up 3 positions. Saginaw, they went all in last year to host the Memorial Cup, and many, myself included, we kind of thought maybe this team would sell off to recoup picks and talent because that's how junior hockey works. You usually get to the top, and then you have your drop-off, you rebuild, and then you do it again, like we're seeing with the Peterborough Petes these last couple of seasons since their OHL championship. But with the division being wide open and Michael Misa and Zane Parekh and company, they do have a solid core. So Saginaw looks like a team that could threaten for top spot in the West Division. And with the performance from this past week, all signs point to this team being pretty good early on. 2-0-1 was their record to start the year. Michael Misa, 7 goals, 8 points in 3 games, and he now leads the OHL in both of those categories. Zane Parekh just returned to the lineup in their 6-1 win over Sarnia from the Calgary Flames, and he called the training camp experience humbling. So I think this team, they've got the weapons. They might not be able to add big pieces like they did last year. However, the division, like I said, wide open, and they could add some depth. And who knows, maybe this team could challenge for the West Division. But right now, they are the number one team in my power rankings. And this week, they play the Sarnia Sting on the road Friday before hosting the Erie Otters on Saturday. So those are the power rankings for week number 2. A lot of movements, and we'll see how week number 2 goes. And yeah, and I made sure this video was a little shorter than the first week. I think the last one was almost 30 minutes long. So thank you very much for tuning in, and let me know in the comment section down below your thoughts on the opening week, your thoughts on the power ranking. Who do you think should be number 1? Let me know down below. Don't forget to hit like and subscribe. Talk to you again soon.